Your Partner in Success Radio is a free business podcast with host Denise Griffitts. It's all about great stories, conversation, and context to help you move your business and life forward with actionable tips and advice from her guest experts. To listen and subscribe, just find us on iTunes, Google Play, or wherever you consume your podcasts.
Good morning and welcome to Your Partner in Success Radio. I am your host, Denise Griffitts, and this podcast is ranked in the top 2% of the most popular podcasts globally. And it's because of my guests. It's not me, it's them. I am honored and blessed to share time with people who are at the top of their game, and they show up here willing to help you get to where you want to be in life and in business. Now, these are not people who hold back. Their goal is to share with us the essence of peak performance. And today I welcome Eric Morgan, the president of Morgan & Company, which I think has been renamed, but I'll ask him about that. And it's an advertising agency based in New Orleans, which is about 100 and some odd miles away from me. So we're both in Louisiana, and it's hot and muggy. We're going to struggle through, though. So with over 25 years of experience in media strategy, planning, and buying, Eric has mastered offline, online, non-traditional, and promotional advertising tactics. And his company serves a diverse range of clients, including the tourism and hospitality industry, healthcare systems and hospitals, law firms, and so much more. So get ready to dive into Eric's wealth of knowledge. Listen carefully and grab your notepad. Good morning, Eric, and welcome to Your Partner in Success Radio. It's good to have you here.
Good morning. Yeah, it's great to be here. I appreciate the opportunity to talk business.
Well, we were in the green room a bit ago moaning and crying about how hot and sticky it is. And honestly, and I'll say this out loud, people say, oh, Southern women are so pretty. It's because we don't dry out. We just never get dry. So there you have it. So tell people a bit about you. You're in New Orleans. I'm in Lafayette area. We're about 130 miles apart, I think, not that far.
No, we're not far at all. Just down the road, so to speak. Born and raised in New Orleans, 27 years ago, started an ad agency and, married, kids. And, I spend a lot of my time helping brands understand their audiences and figure out ways on how to get in front of them and how to communicate and interact with the, marketing with the ultimate outcome of trying to shape a behavior or an opinion or some sort of an action.
And you said you're a father. You have father 4. Aren't 2 of them twins?
Better, triplets.
Oh,
I have a 16-year-old daughter and I have 14-year-old triplet boys.
And you're still surviving?
I'm still surviving. My wife and I have not killed each other. Like the kids have not tried to, escape or anything like that. So yeah, no, it's good. It's interesting. As we work with brands and companies and obviously running a company, there's a lot of things that kind of carry over into our personal lives in terms of structure and organization, project management, those kind of things, that just keep the wheels on the bus. So yeah, it's been fun. It's exciting. Summers are, it's different now because, summers years ago where all the kids were in camp, but now they're all doing their own thing. Our daughter drives. She's got a little part-time job working at a camp, a summer camp, a day camp here in New Orleans. And so our lives are a lot different than it was when, we came home with, 3 boys, when they were born. So, having 3 infants at home is insane, but interesting and fun.
I bet. And one of the questions I had, and you already answered it, was how do you balance your professional responsibility with being a father of 4? And you answered that beautifully. So, and I love that you're able to blend them together. You learn from one arena, take it over to the other, and it all works so beautifully. So thanks for sharing.
Yeah, no problem. It helps that I'm a morning person and some of my family members are not. So I get up at the crack of dawn and go to the gym or get some work done. So that way they don't have to see that side of me.
Well, there you go. And I'm very much a morning person. I've been waking up I don't sleep much anyway, but I've been getting up recently because I'm writing a book. And I'm telling you, 4:30 in the morning, my eyes pop open, my feet hit the ground, and the devil says, "Oh crap, she's awake."
Yep.
But that's when I'm the most creative
Yeah, no, I love the silence. I love that time of the day.
too. Even, and I live alone, but it doesn't matter. I feel like, come 8 o'clock in the morning, I have to open up. I have to be responding to emails and social media and, taking care of my clients. But between 4:30 and 8, I can write, I can walk the dog, I can go outside and just breathe before it gets too hot. So I'm with you. That's my time.
Yep. And it helps. It helps me balance.
Yeah, it does. It does. So tell us about your company, because I mean you were educated in Tulane and Loyola. I never can say that. You'd think I could. So how did that influence your career in media strategy? How did this all start?
So it started at Loyola, really. I just kind of fell into I mean, I was in the communications curriculum at Loyola, and I fell into the media planning side of it, understanding audiences, negotiating with various media outlets. Obviously, in the early 90s, the internet really was barely on the scene. Um, and putting spreadsheets together and flowcharts and analytics and ROI and that kind of stuff. And I'm just naturally in sync with math. I know how to do math well. I mean, I'm not doing any kind of crazy math. It's just basic math, and I'm comfortable with it. And so it just all kind of clicked for me. And when I graduated, a lot of things fell into place and so forth. And I had job offers, and I ended up taking one here in New Orleans in a media department at an ad agency, and just kind of progressed from there. So a lot of things just happen to align perfectly. I enjoy what I do. I enjoy the media side, and that's the bulk of the work that we do. And I enjoy helping clients navigate where to invest their budget, because that's what it comes down to. We talk about ourselves as being financial advisors, meaning a brand, a marketer has a mission. They're trying to sell more of this or become more of a household name, and they're looking to us to go, where do I invest my marketing dollars? And that's ultimately what we do, based on the situation, based on what opportunities exist in the landscape in their category. We say, this is how you go about it. This is a strategy. This is the space that you can own in that category. And then this is what those tactics would look like. And then this is predictive outcome, based on the ad campaign and whether people are going to click or call or read or download or whatever we're asking them to do. This is what we feel that the outcome will be. And then we manage that whole process and report on it. And then we take what we learned and pump it back into the system to improve it. So, it just kind of all fell into place. And I'm one of those fortunate people that I love what I do. When I get up at, crack of dawn, I'm excited about it. And I see there's so many things to do. Unfortunately, nowadays, there's a lot of things to do, and my list keeps getting longer and longer, but it's just exciting. And it's exciting to be able to help brands navigate that media space, because there is an enormous amount of media options out there. I mean, when you think about everything that a brand could do to educate their customer base, prospective customer base, it's endless. Whether it's social media, traditional media, promotions, sponsoring events and underwriting and all these things, getting involved in community organizations or charitable associations. It's just endless, and that's great. And there are some of those things that are just perfect for what the brand is trying to accomplish. And it's our job to kind of weed through all of that, decipher which ones make the most sense, and then to construct that program, and then to help navigate it.
See, that makes perfect sense to me, because as you know, I'm a web developer. I've been doing this for a while. And then I started my company in 2000, 2001, and social media wasn't really a thing. In fact, the internet was barely a thing. It
Right.
really was. I remember building my first websites using HTML on a laptop. We didn't have graphical user interface. We couldn't really inject, insert pictures. I mean, when WordPress came along, I was like, oh, there is a God. I was so happy. But things have changed a lot in just 20 years, or a little bit more than 20 years. And the way that we market and be seen has changed dramatically. I mean, remember MySpace?
Yep.
That was
Yep.
about the only way we could connect. Then, there was the yellow page advertise. If you owned any kind of a business, especially in Lafayette, there was going to be 3 or 4 people from the local TV stations banging on your door before you even opened.
Yep.
We can build a website for you. We can do, and then of course the minute they quit paying for that, the website disappeared, and it was just awful. Which is one of the reasons I started doing what I do. I would see it happen. I would see it happen to people that I knew. I would see it in businesses that I, went to, and I'd say, "What happened to your website?" "Well, we quit paying the radio station or the TV station." I went, "Huh. All right. Well, let's fix that."
Yeah. Yeah. The world definitely has changed. And, I look back in my career and, as I said, I started out in media planning and buying, and I still do that to a degree. I mean, we have a team here. They do a lot better job of it than I do. But the reality is that regardless of who on our team, the conversation has changed over the last couple of decades in terms of advertising because, back in the day, we would just be talking about, well, your ad's going to run here, it's going to run there, it's going to be on this website. And now our conversations are more about, business strategy. When we say we're launching a marketing campaign for a client, are you able to handle the spike or the lift in business that you'll be getting from this? Are you able to handle the site traffic? Are you able to handle the call volume when we promote a law firm? Because the phone's going to start ringing a little bit more, and we want to make sure that they're prepared. And so there's also these conversations that revolve around their marketing strategy, which is an extension of their business strategy that says, look, this is what I want to do. I want to roll into this market, this new market. I want to expand. I want to grow. And so we have our conversations with them around those things and how marketing can help with that. And it's almost like we become business advisors. And that's great because we have to do our jobs, we have to understand, behind the scenes, what's going on, how the operation operates, what they think, what they're trying to achieve. And so we were not having those kind of conversations back in the MySpace days. We were, okay, you want to run a campaign? Great. Here, we're going to run a campaign, and this is where it's going to run, and you'll see your billboard on the side of I-10 at, I-49 intersection or whatever.
Morris Bart. I just instantly saw Morris Bart in my head.
There you go. There you go. But it's different. And a lot of our conversations with clients are less about the advertising tactics, although there is a degree of that because, we're spending money on their behalf and we want to report and show how it's performing. But more so, the conversations are about where the brand is and where the market is and where they're going and what opportunities exist. And so there's a level of, consultancy that goes along with, with our little name tag that says media planning, media buying, media strategy. So, yeah. And then that's the fun part about it, to learn about their business and understand. And we're in a couple of categories, pretty extensively, multiple clients around the country where we can say, look, this is what's happening in this space out west. And we think it's going to happen over here, or this is what's happening with your competitors, because we're not working directly with your competitors, but other people in your category, and how you can benefit from those things that we're already doing in other parts of the country. So that's the beauty of it. I when I was at Loyola, I did not think that I was going to be having those kind of conversations. I really, quite frankly, there's a part of me that thought I was going to be buying newspaper ads for the rest of my life, but that didn't happen.
No. But I love what you're saying here and I still see it, particularly in the podcasting arena. People will go on Facebook and they'll hire somebody to do their social media for them. No strategy, no real understanding of who their real market is. And then they fail. The
Yeah.
podcast may fail, it may disappear, kind of like, the old TV ads, or not the TV, but the radio and the benches. Remember the benches?
Yeah. Yeah.
You drive by, wherever a city bus was going to run, and you try to read the little thing. Those were just ridiculous. But, this throw it out there and hope it sticks mentality, honestly, is still out there. So I'm
Yeah.
hoping people are listening to you going, I might be doing it wrong.
Yeah. And I think that's the problem is when you use the word strategy, people go, oh, well, my strategy is, I'm going to hire this person to do more social media for me. I'm like, that's not a strategy. That's a tactical execution.
Right.
A strategy is, why are you going to market? Why do you exist? What's your value? And what space can you own in that marketplace? Figuring that out first is all about strategy. Why do you exist? And what's the value that somebody's going to get out of things, get out of your brand or your service or your products? Then once you know that, great. Who does that resonate with? Who needs that the most? Great. Now you got your audience. All right. How does that audience interact? Oh, they are on social media. Perfect. Then a tactical, manifestation or execution of that strategy might be, I'm going to hire somebody to do my social media for me. And they're going to do the content, and the engagement with the audience in social media is going to support that strategy and bring that strategy to life. And so that's part of the conversations that needs to happen first, because too often we see brands go, oh, well, my competition's on social media, or, oh, my competition is a billboard. I should have a billboard. And we're going, wait a minute, time out. That might be right for what they're trying to accomplish. Let's talk about what we're trying to accomplish first, and why we should be even accomplishing that, and who does that resonate with, and why does that matter? Then we'll figure out if billboards can help that strategy come to life.
Exactly. And, I lurk around in a few Facebook groups about podcasting and marketing and other things, because I want to compare and contrast. I want to pick up good ideas. I want to identify really bad ideas, and there's a surprising number of them out there. But one thing I'll see in the podcast marketing groups in particular is like, well, I hired somebody, this person wants to hire me. For starters, you're a contractor, so they're not hiring you, but that's a whole nother discussion. And, I am supposed to do this many reels and this blah, 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 blah. And I have to get their numbers up too. And I'm like, walk away now.
Yeah.
Get away from that. They're going to be upset. You're going to get a bad reputation. Don't do it until you have an in-depth discussion with what they really need and what you're talking about. So I'm so glad we're having this conversation.
Yeah. And a lot of times, there's so much work that needs to be done internally, and we call it getting the house in order before you can just jump in. Are people inside the company living and breathing what that strategy is? Do they understand what the brand is? And look, my background is not branding, although over 30 years at this point, it starts to grow on you, and you start to live it and breathe it and stuff. And I agree with it. I might be a media guy, but brand and creative, all those things matter. But so often, clients want to just kind of jump into it. I'm like, whoa, we got some things we got to do internally first. You got to get the house in order. And that can go a far way. And quite frankly, some of those things clients can do themselves internally. They don't need to hire an agency or a marketer or what have you. They can do some of that in-house. Some choose not to, and that's fine. Some don't have the bandwidth or the skills, and that's fine. But some of it can be done in-house. And we just say, look, let's take this step by step, because if we jump right into it, you're going to be thoroughly disappointed, because we're not going to be fully empowered to do the things that we need to be doing to meet the goals and expectations that you're hoping get delivered.
Well, I agree with you. Do you find that sometimes people will come to you? I find this with my web development company. They'll come to me, and I do exactly what you're talking about. I do consultations weekly, once before we take them on as a client, if we take them as a client. And then every week we're still digging in there. And I have found, and I guess I should be shocked, but I'm not, is that so many small entrepreneurs, small companies don't know their own culture.
Right.
They haven't created a culture, so they haven't really created a brand.
Correct. And that's a big thing, because when you have, and it's destructive the larger the company is, because If it's one or two people, got it. They're probably in sync to a degree. They probably can't write the exact same, definition of what their brand stands for, their culture. But as you grow and that thing gets out of control, then you've got 10 people, 20 people, 40, 50, 100 people who then are all thinking different things about what the culture is, what the brand stands for, what the brand promise is, what the value is. And it's just, it's unfortunately, in some cases, the ship gets, too far out of control and you can't steer it properly. So we're like, before you get too far, let's address those things so that everybody's on the same page. Everybody knows exactly what's going on.
And I'm so glad you're saying, I mean, I'm scribbling notes like crazy because you're saying pretty much everything that I think about web development, about marketing, about strategy. Now, do I do it for myself? No, not really. I'm really
Yeah.
good at it for my clients.
I know. It's the cobbler's children have no shoes.
Oh, you have no idea. It's pathetic. But what you're talking about here, I think I really am going to invite people to come back and listen to this again and again and take notes because this is important what we're talking about. There's a lot of money in marketing coming and going. And if you get the wrong marketing company or the wrong marketing person, oh boy.
Yep.
I just thinking about it.
It's a huge business. And look, this is not complicated stuff. It doesn't have to be. I mean, we're not, not every brand is Nike or Microsoft or Apple. I mean, most brands, the economy runs on small businesses. And so it doesn't need to be super complicated. It just needs to be, get everybody in a room, put it out on paper, analyze it, kind of tweak it a little bit, figure out what the brand is, what the philosophy, what you stand for, who does this matter most to, and just get it out there so that everybody can shake their head and go, yes. Or if some people say, no, that's not us, perfect, love it. Let's discuss why it's not us and start digging a little bit. And there's so many exercises, so many ways to get through this process. But once you get through it, man, it's just so powerful and so rich because then everybody is saying the same thing. Everybody's got the same finish line. Everybody knows who the right customer base is, what the products they should be selling and serving. And it just helps ultimately your bottom line.
It really does. Now, I wanted to veer off a little bit, and thank you for sharing that. You work with clients in the tourism and hospitality industry. You work all over the place. Can you share some insights with your work with clients in tourism in particular? Because we're both in Louisiana, you can't avoid tourism. I mean, and you work with Hotel Monteleone, don't you?
Well, we did. We worked with them for about 8 years, and then COVID put an end to that.
Oh, I remember.
Yeah.
Remember what was going on over there.
They're great. I loved working with them. We stayed around well into some COVID times, but after a while we parted ways. And then we spent about 10 years working with Department of Culture, Recreation, Tourism, which is fancy long name with under the Lieutenant Governor of Louisiana's office. Specifically, most people know Louisiana Office of Tourism, and by the time that I guess this podcast gets out the door, we'll be able to say that we're going to be working with them again. We're signing a contract right now for another 3-year term.
Good.
That's a fun one. Being from Louisiana, I'm proud of the state, proud of the culture. And it's interesting because everybody knows about Louisiana and everybody wants to come and experience our food and our music and our culture and our language and all that fun stuff. But, when it comes to strategy, we have to be, in that case, we have to be pretty disciplined in that. Look, sorry to people who, your listeners who might love golf, but, we're not trying to attract people to play golf in Louisiana. Like if you want a golf destination, Louisiana is not probably higher on your list. So we're not interested so much. Look, they can come and we'll show them a good time and all that fun stuff. But when we start talking about our target audience for Louisiana, we got to be pretty true and disciplined and say, look, Louisiana is unlike every other state. There are things that you can experience in Louisiana that you cannot experience anywhere else, whether that's, the dialect in your neck of the woods. I mean,
Oh yeah.
you go
People
to some of the areas between my house and your house, and
yeah.
you got, and it's amazing, and it's beautiful, and I love it.
Oh, it is. And listen, the Cajun accent, people say, well, you don't have, you know, you have a bit of an accent. No, I really don't, because accents are regional. And I
Yeah.
am dab smack in the middle of Cajun country. And I'm going to tell you right now, I can tell what little town you're from. There's a bunch of old Cajun men sitting around having coffee in a diner, I can tell what little town they're from by the way they sound.
Yep.
I mean, from neighborhood to neighborhood, from family to family, they're going to sound a little bit different.
Yeah, and
No, I don't sound like that. No, I don't.
and we're trying to find people around the country, who want to experience that, who
Mhm.
want to go eat at a restaurant where that's the table next to them, that are talking like that and sound like that, because you can't experience that in other parts of the country. You can't experience
No.
feud or our music that was created here, and so yes, we want anybody and everybody to come to Louisiana, but when it comes from a marketing campaign, and because the state does not have endless, buckets of money, we have to be disciplined. And so we're not looking for the people who come to, they think Disney, and I go to Disney, and I got 4 kids. By law, I have to go to Disney every now and then. But it's not that group of people necessarily. We want somebody that might feel, possibly a little uncomfortable. Like, wow, man, this is different food. I don't know if I've ever eaten that before.
Alligator, everybody loves alligator. Not
Yeah,
really, but they do. I love it.
yeah, but that's what we want, and so we have to be very focused on. There's a group of people that absolutely want to come here, and there's a group of people that might not come here because we don't have great golf. Fine, we have golf courses, and we've got some nice ones, but you want really great golf, go to California, Florida, or Arizona. You probably have a lot better golfing there, but that's fine. But if you really want something interesting that you can't experience anywhere else, you got to come to Louisiana. And so we're trying to talk to those people that want that want to go. I want to go to almost like a foreign country, but without pulling out my
Exactly.
passport.
Exactly. I used to say years ago, listen, if you're passing from Louisiana to Texas or Mississippi or any place else, you're going to need a passport. We are kind of off on our own.
Yep. Yep. It is. It is. There's so much influence from around the world. It is like traveling to an international destination.
One of my favorite towns in this state is Natchitoches.
Yep.
I love that town. That's where God, Dolly Parton.
Field Magnolias.
Oh yes, yeah. I actually interviewed one of the men that made sure that that movie was made in Natchitoches, and it's a gorgeous little town.
It is right there, a little river going through it. They've got
Mhm.
celebration of lights during Christmas, and
Yep, and the plantations are everywhere. The history is amazing. I think
the
it's the oldest settlement, or yeah, I think it's the oldest settlement in the state, isn't it?
I that sounds familiar. Yes.
But we're talking specifically about Louisiana because we're both here, but the thing is, you have to know who you are, what your culture is, and how you share it. And I think that's what happens with so many people go, oh, I'm going to hire somebody to do this. Have you done your own homework?
In a lot of cases, no.
I know.
They see what other people are doing, or in this case, other destinations are doing. And like, no, no, no. We've got to be true to who we are and own that. That's a thing that we can own. And then when you figure that one out, it makes everything else so much easier. Everything just starts falling into place. Great. We're not a golf destination. Don't come here to play golf. Come here to do something else. And so something that, if that resonates to you, great. Come here and do something else. Perfect. We know who our audience segment is now, and we know how to get in front of them and talk to them. And when we do get in front of them and talk to them, we know what to say. So all these other things start falling into place. Now that's the beauty of doing strategy and really looking at yourself as a brand or as a product and going, this is who we are, and this is what we stand for, and the value we provide to our customer base. And we really need to own it and run with it.
We do, and it's difficult because honestly, and I have trouble with my own stuff. Who am I really? What am I bringing to the table? I had somebody years ago, and I do have a point for saying this, years ago, who was a guest on my podcast. And he asked me in the middle of it, he said, "Well, Denise, what is it that you do?" And I blanked. I had no idea. Because one, nobody ever asked me that. The show is about you, the guest. And I do everything, don't we all?
Yep.
Just do
Yep.
all things all the time. And I had to stop and breathe for a minute. I said, well, I'm a web developer. I have a social media marketing agency. I'm a cat wrangler. I said, it looks like Nordstrom's threw up in my closet. I guess I'm a nerd in stilettos. And he said, call me when this is over. And I said, well, I always do, but I will. And I called him. He said, why have you not branded that you're a nerd in stilettos? Because I am. I have a computer science degree. I am a nerd. I build websites when I'm making a pot of gumbo. I can see it in my head. And I said, I don't know. He said, Denise, do it. I said, yes, sir. Well, when the publicist for the Academy Awards tells you to do something, you do it.
Yeah. Yep.
But
Yeah.
I didn't know. That's my point. I didn't know that I needed to narrow it down.
Yeah. No, it's challenging. And often we want to, be everything to everybody, and we can't. Being a generalist in a lot of cases is actually a bad idea.
It's hard. Yeah, it's harming you big time.
Yeah. Yeah. So we try to get to the core of what it is and why something is of value, or there's an opportunity that we need to take advantage of. That way, and we're working on a project right now for, believe it or not, 2025, to say, what can we own and why does it make sense to the audience and for the brand? So that way and it's not even media. We're not even talking media. We're so far away from that at this point, but it's just like, what can we wrap our arms around, and that could be our North Star for this brand? And then everything else starts falling into place: media and creative and size of the ad units and how we're going to measure and all that stuff. So absolutely, it's focus on everything, on the most important things that make sense, and leave everything, off to the side.
And what I'm hearing from you, Eric, is that you've got to do your homework. If you
Yes.
haven't started it, start. If you have no idea where to go, connect with people like Eric and other people who know what the heck they're talking about. Don't throw spaghetti at the ceiling. Too many people do that. I've been guilty of it. It's like, oh, I'll go do this. Well, crud, that didn't work.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's a process. I mean, it takes a long time to happen. It's not, it can be easy, but I think if you're doing it the right way, you should be questioning a lot and challenging, the status quo, challenging what you think you stand for. But look, once you see a breakthrough, once you see that light, you'll get it. It'll click and it'll all fall into place.
It does. And I've had that happen with some of my clients, and it's happening with me because now that I've decided belatedly that I need to get my house in order, it's like, huh, how did I miss that? Or this is even better. What the hell was I thinking? That pops up a lot.
Yeah, no, I mean, we do it internally ourselves, quarterly planning, freshening up the brand, thinking about who we are and who our clientele is, and what do we love doing and what are we good at and what value can we bring our clients. So it's something we do ourselves.
Exactly. So, what advice would you give to businesses who are looking to improve their media strategies in today's market? And I'm thinking specifically about AI. People are either terrified of it, or they're embracing it, or they have no idea what to do with it, and it's actually hurting them.
Yeah, yes, like everything else, it's moving quickly. From just a marketing standpoint, media strategy, how to get in front of the right people, all the things that we've been talking about for the last 30 or so minutes is on point. It's understand who you are, what the value of your brand, your product, your services is, who that really resonates to, and to make sure that you're living it and breathing it, and everything you say and everything in every way that you engage with people is is very focused to just that. Don't be everything to, to everybody, but be very specific about what you're going to do, what the value is that the user of your product or service is going to benefit from. Is it going to get their lives put back on the right track? Is it going to get them healthier? Is it going to have be a great experience from a travel standpoint? Is it going to be, mind changing because you got to, try alligator, or you got to try a new dance at a, music hall down the road, or something that you might not get to do in your own, your own city. And when you figure that out, make sure that your media is promoting it and doing so in a way that allows your brand to be accessible. There's a level of continuity so that everything's in sync. There's a level of continuity that says, look, these are the ways we're going to interact with people. And these are the points of engagement, and this is how we're going to measure it, and this is what it looks like. And do all these things before you turn it on, because hey, I'm going to hire the social media person, and they're just going to do a bunch of stuff, and then you look back and you're like, wow, that didn't work. What I thought it was going to do.
And you probably lost people who may have liked you before that. Now they don't.
Yeah. I mean, we do things internally, and this afternoon I'm walking a client through a promotion, a proposal that says, look, this is what we're going to do, and this is what it's going to, what we're going to get out of it. There are predictions in there that say, look, if we're going to do this campaign, this is what we anticipate happening. We're all on the same page. Great, that looks like a beautiful finish line. And then as the campaign is running, we monitor and pace ourselves against that to make sure we're at a minimum hitting those goals that we said we were going to hit. And, at a maximum, how do we push it a little bit further? Because we know we can get a little bit more out of it once it's live and once we've learned things. Now,
yeah, and you've seen the responses.
Yep. Yeah. We can take that information and we call it refining, but put it back into the system and go, this is what works, this is what didn't work. Let's tweak it, refine it, and get more out of it. Now,
yeah,
in terms of AI and how AI is being implemented, AI from a marketing standpoint can be very useful from everything in terms of content creation, ideation, mechanically, executionally, operationally. We're using it to upload just when we do the orders, so to speak, back of the house kind of stuff. Is there a way to translate one document to another document, with that second document being able to be uploaded into our system? So that way it takes honestly, some human hours out of the equation. And I'm redirecting those human hours to be client facing, to go, hey, client, I got more time on my hands. Let's go think of some more ideas, and let's go think of how we can, move this forward a little bit faster. Because there's a lot of busy work in our side of the industry. It's kind of like on the creative side, great. Once you come up with the brilliant idea from the brief, and then you come up with the concepts, you write the copies, and you got everything done. Now it's okay, great. Now I got to resize all of these ads for all these different versions. And that's back of the house stuff, that's great. Could the design team, instead of spending time resizing ads so that it fits all the standard IAB ads, or this half page turns a vertical page of print ad or whatever, could the design team let AI do that? And then the design team gets to work on new concepts instead of, resizing ads in Illustrator or Photoshop or InDesign, whatever they're using. That's where AI comes into play. AI is like an assistant of sorts. And it's just, there's a potential, benefit there from an operational standpoint. From the inspiration, I mean, we'll use it to put some ideas in there and let it take a look at it from a different angle. How do we explore, what this thinking process is from a audience, what this persona is, what are the downsides of this persona, what are the upsides of this persona? And we use it really internally as a vetting tool. None of the AI document or content ever sees the light of day. We might use it internally for vetting of ideas or testing ideas, but it's never the finished product that goes out the door for us. It's more of an assistant of sorts to just kind of get the wheels turning.
Same here. I use chat, but I use chat after I use Perplexity. So I,
Mhm.
I kind of tag team them. But you're right. None of it is, oh, that looks good. I'll just post it out there and pretend like I did that. No, don't do that.
No, no, not at
Use
all.
it to guide you. Use it for ideas, the ideation. I mean, I do the same thing, but it's a tool.
Yep,
Use
yep.
it as a tool. And I wrote down something while you were talking just a bit ago, when you're talking, about culture and how you want people to see us, whether we're a law firm or a healthcare system. One of the things that I have, and I've said this for years, and actually my friend Ben Gay III, who's the author of the Closers book series,
Yep.
he came up with this many, many years ago, and it's been kind of used and reused, but I think originally it was his original thought. And that is, people will do business with people they know, like, and trust. I don't see why that is overlooked, but it is.
Yeah, no, it's, and that's part of how, from a strategy standpoint, what is the space that we can own and be approachable as a brand, be trusted as a brand. And that's not, you got to answer that question before you can jump in and go, hey, I'm going to hire the freelancer to do my social media. Because the freelancer social media needs to know, how does the brand become trusted? How does a brand become favored, preferred? How does the brand become a certain, associated with a certain value level in the perception of people's minds? And so, yes, we do business with brands we know and love. And so understanding what is it that they know about us, what is it that they love about us, there are questions that need to be answered. And I think they need to be answered truthfully for a brand and marketer, before you can go further and say, all right, let's run some billboards.
Exactly. And then there are companies, I just came across one that I am so extraordinarily miffed at. Here's the problem. If you are not true to your brand, if you're putting out a bunch of nonsense out there that just isn't true, and you can't back up, we all have keyboards and tempers. We're going to
Yeah.
get you.
Yeah, it's got to, that's the honest part about it. You got to be, it's got to be accurate and something you can live up to, and something that the client, your prospective client, appreciates and values. But you got to be able to deliver at the end of the day. I mean, that's it's basic, but unfortunately, some brands forget. They want to be something else, and they have to live within their means, so to speak.
And that goes back to the internal work. Who are you? What do you bring to the table? I always tell my website clients, we'll have that first consultation, say, oh, I want this, 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 and this. And at the end of that conversation, they didn't need or want any of that. They were just, looking at somebody else and, like you said, oh, I want to do what they're doing. No, you
Yeah.
don't. You really don't. You need to be you, and you need to have your own space in the market.
Yes. Yes. And so just be honest, it can be a little difficult and challenging. But be honest with who you are, what you stand for, what you offer, the value you deliver. And then wrap everything else around that. Everything else, at that point, everything else falls into place. Who you want to talk to, who you want to do business to, what you want to say once you get in front of them, how you want to say it. And then, what the finish line looks like. How is this going to impact your bottom line? How much you can sell and promote?
Well, I think I lost you there. You still there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, good. It kind of went silent. I went, oh no, I lost him. Okay, so I wanted to ask you, and I had written this down earlier, how do you approach media strategy for, I don't know, let me pick one, healthcare systems and hospitals?
Yeah, that's a very competitive one. We find ourselves in a couple of competitive industries, that we work within, healthcare being the biggest one. And nowadays with the consolidation, so to speak, where you have a system.
And I think that's really what I was asking, because you don't know. All of a sudden, you used to go here and now it's something else. Like, what the heck?
Yeah,
Nobody warned me, and I find that disturbing. Why didn't I know?
yeah, and that's part of it, because ironically, we were talking about this, a week or two ago internally, because that's so common in the healthcare industry, where people have grown up going to their local, their neighborhood hospital. And they just know the hospital as that hospital. And now all of a sudden, somebody else owns it or somebody else is running it. And there's a new logo on the side of the building. And so it's super easy to, from a marketing standpoint, to just jump through and go, oh, we're now, healthcare system ABC instead of, St. Luke's Regional Hospital or St. Luke's Neighborhood Community Hospital or whatever you grew up with. And now, your healthcare system A, B, and C. It's confusing for people, and it's scary because they're like, no, well, I want my doctor. I want my hospital that I lived a mile and a half away from for decades. And so the biggest thing is that you still need to, from a healthcare system that's going through those processes, you still need to kind of, I call it neighborhood eyes, if there's such a word.
Good.
But
I wrote that down. Keep going.
So that you can continue to retain that neighborhood aspect, that local aspect, that my part of town hospitals, it's just that the new system that's going to be managing or running it, keeping the same doctors in place, keeping the same facility in place, keeping the same staff in place. The new doctors are bringing something more. The healthcare system brings something of more value to the equation, where it's fantastic because now, oh, you mean my medical records through Epic software system is now accessible at all these other doctors that I might as my needs develop. Now I need to go to the rheumatologist or the cardio or whatever. You mean they've got my records too? That's great. That makes my life a little bit easier. So the systems that are kind of growing at a pretty fast pace, they need to understand what the value is that they bring to the conversation, and more so what the challenge is. And because the challenge primarily is with the patients, is that patients see a new logo and they get concerned about the staff or the quality of service, or am I going to be moved to another part of town because so-and-so, my doctor's now on the north side of town and I'm living in the south side of town or something. So the education, the communication standpoint is massive. And it's far more than, hey, we got a hospital in every corner of the neighborhood or every corner of the city. That the marketing process now is all about communicating the value, communicating why we're different, why we're in this one space that makes sense, while all the other hospitals are out doing something else. We're more value to you. We've got a better experience. We've got more services. We've got this, that, and yet we're still local. We're still in your backyard. We're still a mile and a half away from you.
And that goes back to know, like, and trust. If all of a sudden this just happened and you had no clue and you go over there and it looks different, you walk in with severe trepidation, I would think, like, I don't even know who I'm meeting here. Is my doctor still my doctor?
Correct.
Even if your appointment was with that doctor, your brain is still going to go, what the heck?
Yeah. Yeah. And that's where I think a lot of brands fall short, is that, change is inevitable. Modernization, growth is inevitable, but they don't keep everybody up to speed enough. They don't keep their patients up to speed to say, look, this is what's going to happen. This is what's going to look like. There's no impact on you, or there is an impact on you. And we wanted to be upfront and tell you, it's just 101. I mean, you started the conversation about, oh yeah, you got 4 kids and you're still sane and you're still alive, but I'm like, what carries over in business into my family world is that, we have to communicate, we have to talk, and we have to say, look, this is what's going on. This is how it's going to impact you kids. And this is what we're doing. It's no different in the business world, just communicate and share so that everybody's on the same page. There's no surprises. And I think that's the biggest thing.
Exactly. And I don't know why this popped into my head, but a veterinary hospital that I used to go over to in the next town over, I switched back to my own town because it was time. I mean, he did a tremendously great job, but the last couple of times I was there. I noticed staffing changes. Things were different. It felt wrong. And I thought, well, it's just time to go back home. They're a mile and a half away. I'll just go back
Yeah.
home.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean I don't still love the doctor. I do. He was fantastic, but it turned out that he is now part of a bigger system and people don't trust it. It's not just him anymore. He's part of now a system and it's not good on Facebook, I'll tell you.
And they just didn't roll it
Nobody
out.
knew. Nobody knew. I didn't know until I went over there I was checking on something and I went, oh, that's why it felt so different. It felt icky, to be honest. I
Yeah.
didn't like it. I mean, the first time I felt it was off, I went, The second time I just picked up my pets and said, thank you. Y'all have a nice day. And I had my records transferred back over here.
Yeah. Yeah. It
And I
was not
couldn't even
rolled
tell
out.
you why at the time. I
Yeah.
just knew there was something wrong.
Yeah. And it happens. But, brands, businesses, they don't get it right always. And it's a shame. And it's easy to not get it right because it's challenging.
Well, it's a lot to think about. And if you don't know the questions to ask, they don't get answered.
Right. Right. And that's, keeping the house in order and just going through that process of who are we? What are we going to stand for? And what, if you're being acquired by a bigger national company and now you're, veterinarian run by a third party or whatever it may be the situation, you know, what you stand for and who you are yesterday might not be what you stand for and who you are tomorrow. And those are just things that just
Oh,
need to be discussed.
absolutely. Now I'm getting a better feel why I felt ick.
Yeah.
And I mean, they took wonderful care of my pets, absolutely wonderful care. But when it went wrong, and I couldn't put my finger on it. Now I think I have. I wanted to ask you, we're running out of time. What have been some of the most rewarding aspects of your career so far? Because you sound like you're so excited about everything you do and, where you've been, where you're going, what you see around the corner. But what's the most rewarding thing for you?
I think when everything comes together from a planning standpoint, and an execution standpoint, and we see clients win, so to speak, they grow, they meet their goals. There's this trickle down effect that takes place. And what I mean by that is, if we're working with a restaurant group and we put together a campaign and the campaign is successful, they're busy. Okay. That means their wait staff is busy. That means their wait staff is making money. That means their brand is making money at the end of the day. And there's a human side to this when wait staff are putting money in their pockets because they had a crazy hectic lunch or brunch or dinner crowd or what have you. There's a human side when we worked with car dealerships years ago. We had a bunch of car dealerships. And when the salespeople had foot traffic on their lot, because then the salespeople get to sell a car and they get to,
Right.
and then on my team, when things work well and we work with great brands, it gives my team an opportunity to work with those brands and to play at a new level and to grow professionally and to grow in their role and their responsibilities and so forth. And those are the things that really get me excited. And it all comes down to the human aspect of what we do, both internally here with the team, but also externally with our clients and their team.
Exactly. So my next question is, what trends are you currently seeing in the advertising industry that have you excited?
I'll always still the analytics side, tracking performance, optimizing everything, making sure that we're using every dollar and every tactic in the most advantageous manner. Obviously, AI is a big conversation. How can it be used? And of course, when anything is something new, people get nervous and, oh, it's going to replace my job. Trying to say, no, no, no. I really, I'm just trying to get some hours back from the monotony and the behind the scenes data entry and take those hours and put it towards clients, and client interface. So it's not replacing people, but instead it's allowing people to be to be focused on what they really need to be focused on, because we know that at the end of the day, there's still a pile of paperwork that needs to get done. And if AI can help get that paperwork done, great. That allows people to be thinking on behalf of clients.
And more creative when you're
Creative.
exhausted from
Yeah.
doing, stacks and stacks of paperwork. Your creativity just tanks and it's hard to
Yep.
get back up.
Yeah. And I think, another trend is just the appreciation of how people communicate. How do people, consumers, get information? How do they share information? How is that information shaped? How that information shape an individual? And I, showing my age, I reference the days when we would flip through a magazine and you would dog ear a paper, a page of an ad or an article, or you tear that out, you
Tear
put
it
it
out and take it with you and hope nobody saw you do it.
yeah, and you put it on the fridge and say, I want that jacket, or I want that car, or I'm going to get my hair done that way, or that's a vacation I want to go on, or what have you. That shapes people. And I think the trend is people are starting to realize the impact of media, social media, traditional media, what have you, the impact that media still has, the role that media still plays in the communication process, and how people get information, and how, it shapes people and ultimately shapes their decision or their behavior. Think a certain way. I want somebody to think that we're a great brand, and they want to do business with us because people do business with great brands and brands that they're familiar with, or they take an action and they go buy a product, or they, go make a selection at one restaurant over another restaurant.
Exactly. We touched briefly on law firms because I mentioned Morris Bart. I mean, I'm not out and about very often. I am a highly committed introvert, but Morris Bart is ubiquitous. You can't go anywhere without seeing one of those billboards. So what are some of the unique challenges that you face when working with law firms?
Again, it's a competitive industry, much like healthcare. And so trying to find, a position that a law firm can take is always a challenge. Because the people that we're working with directly, they're attorneys, and I've got attorneys in my family, so no disrespect to attorneys, but they're focused on the law, the legal side, and then it's helping them understand that they need to create a space in the market landscape that they can own, that allows them to be distinctive in light of the competition that's out there, and then living that completely. And so getting through that process is sometimes challenging, not because of lawyers or anything, but just because it is a complicated process, and it is a challenging category in space, because, as you mentioned, you see the billboards, there's a ton of them. There's a ton of billboards, and there's a ton of lawyers. And they're all trying to fight for the same eyeball. So, I think that's one of the biggest challenges, is just carving out that distinctive space that a law firm can own, and then, wrapping marketing around that. So that way, people get to understand what the brand stands for, and they get warm and comfortable with the brand. So that way, when it is time, God forbid, they're in an accident, they need an attorney, but that ultimately they're comfortable and they appreciate that brand, and they go, you know what, that's the brand that I know, and I want to work with that brand.
Exactly. Yeah. And you see it around here all the time, especially with older firms in Lafayette in particular. There was one firm, Simon, and I can't remember their names now, but they sued the Catholic Church and won. Remember Father Gautier? And that was a mess. And all of a sudden they were the firm to go to, and you couldn't get in a lot of the times. You just couldn't
Wow.
get in.
Yeah. That's good.
It was
Nice.
great. Well, listen, Eric, thank you so much for spending time with me today. This has been fascinating. But before we wrap up, do you have any final thoughts or advice for our listeners? And where can people connect with you online?
So the final thoughts, we tell our clients, I tell anybody this, is you kind of look internally, look at your house. Does the house need to get in order? Whether that's, what do you stand for? What's your philosophy? What your values are? Because all of those are going to ultimately impact how you market, who you market to, what you're going to say to those individual potential customers when the marketing, when the marketing kicks in. And so definitely reflect inward and determine who it is that you are, your brand stands for, what value you're trying to convey. And, start somewhere, start anywhere. Is your Google My Business up to speed? Is your website really clear? And is it defined on the role that y'all are going to play, that brand's going to play in a customer's life? Does the customer get X value or Y value out of that? So definitely do a little bit of an audit and make sure that everything y'all are saying and doing is on point. In terms of getting in touch with me, we're in the middle of a brand change.
That's what I was going to ask you about. I'm glad you reminded me.
Yeah.
Okay, keep going.
So we, for 27 years, we've been Morgan & Company. We are in the process of changing to Rue Advertising. I wanted to get my name out of the industry, so to speak. I wanted it to be a little bit more aligned with what we do. And when you think, in your neighborhood, in my neighborhood, when you think about a Rue, there's a lot of things that go into it before you can, get the right outcome. And so we thought it was very applicable to the role we play in creating something that's amazing, that's great, that ultimately puts a smile on people's face. So we are rolling out. It's live right now. You can get me either way, but I'm going to say going forward, the second half of this year, we're going to be Rue Advertising. You can reach me at Eric, ERIC, at rueadvertising.com. ROUX, and rueadvertising.com. We're on all the usual social media platforms, so you can find us there.
And for those of you who don't live here or eat here, we're sorry for you. Rue is ROUX, and it's the basis for gumbo and all the wonderful food we create, but it's ROUX. So just so you know, it's not Rue like what do they call Australia? That's a whole different Rue.
Yeah.
I think what is that animal?
Spelled differently in French too.
It is.
RUE.
Yep. But Rue, ROUX. So listen, everybody, as we conclude, and come visit us. It's a great state to visit. So as we conclude today's episode, your feedback means a lot. And if you found the show helpful, please support us with a quick review on iTunes. And the reason I ask that is your input is vital in my mission to inspire and empower more individuals. So don't forget to hit subscribe, leave a review, and share your Partner in Success Radio with friends and colleagues. And be sure to go find Eric Morgan on the web and connect with him. Thank you for tuning in, and I will see you next week. Eric, again, thank you so much.
Thank you. I had a blast. I appreciate the opportunity.
My pleasure.
Get your voice heard. If you would like to launch your own far-reaching podcast, contact Denise Griffitts at yourofficeontheweb.com and go to the podcast tab.